That's where you want it. He gets the kick. My ass! Oh, my goodness!
Well, it's round 22, the business end. And what a super Saturday we have for you to wrap your financials around.
Buddy came through! Almost walked over the Play of the year!
From Hobart, the Roos are scrapping for their finals lives against a rampaging Buddy Franklin. Then, it's Family Feud at the G. St. Nick or Jack the Tigger. Who gets to carve the Christmas turkey? Then, a bunch of rage-infected giants foaming at the mouth after last week will take violent revenge on the state of WA. Batten down the hatches, a mummy is loose. Then it's the Pies and the Sons from Etihad, followed by Showdown 41, Eddie's 250th, and a chance for the Crows to snaffle a top 2 spot. Well, this is the biggest night in Adelaide since they got a new jukebox at the Norwood RSL.
Is this one to remember?
All this, and the greatest of great men, Mr. Sandy Roberts.
Lockie, thank you very much. You're a genius. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jeep Saturday Live. And what a week we have for you. It all got underway last night, didn't it? Round 22 in very dramatic fashion, and both sides paying a price. It was the West Coast Eagles successful by 25 points over the Hawks to keep their top 4 hopes alive. But the real story surrounded 2 ruckmen, Nick Naitanui and Jonathan Segler of the Hawks. They both looked pretty innocuous initially. There's the incident that caused Nick Naitanui to be carried from the ground. The whisper is that both have suffered ACL injuries, and that is certainly not good news. And there's the Segler incident, both of them with within a few minutes of each other. It was extraordinary, really. And, well, it's just going to be interesting to see what plays out and how it affects both sides' finals chances. We'll know in the next couple of days. But what it has done, that 25-point win, is turn the AFL ladder absolutely on its head and the finals race into a spin. Hawthorn, a holding top spot, that is certain to change. Sydney Swans, Adelaide and Geelong are all destined and favoured to move to 16 and 5. But the key there is they all have a superior percentage to Hawthorn, who's been troubled by their percentage right throughout the season. They could drop to 4th by the end of the weekend. And the other big story surrounds Melbourne. Look at them, sitting in 9th spot, a percentage of 104.8. North Melbourne are ahead of them with a percentage of 108.5. It's not a lot in these days, and it could even change this afternoon in the first game when North Melbourne plays Sydney in Tasmania. There it is, first cab off the rank. The Kangaroos and Sydney, then Richmond and St Kilda at the MCG, GWS and Fremantle. The Giants will be looking to build on their percentage too after that shock loss last week. Collingwood and the Suns could be a very interesting game. And then Showdown 41, Port Adelaide and Adelaide. There have been some great showdowns in years gone by, but there is no doubt that Adelaide will go into that game a very warm favourite. Richmond and St Kilda, you can catch that on 5:03 this afternoon. It should be an absolute beauty too from the MCG. Let's hear from the Tigers skipper, Trent Cotchin. He's having a word with our own Cam Mooney.
Well, Trent, thanks very much for joining us. I guess, first of all, the wash-up after last week. 3 really strong quarters, 1 really poor quarter.
Yeah, we were really pleased with the way we played in those first 3 quarters. Disappointing to lose the match how we did. You know, if we find a way to kick a goal halfway through the quarter, we probably manage to get the momentum back on our terms. But, you know, Geelong are a great side. They've shown that throughout the year, and we learn a lot of lessons from that last quarter. Challenge for us is to come back out from the start this game and bring what we need to do.
On the review, do you review the great 3 quarters or do you review the poor 1 quarter?
Oh, we focus on the things that we didn't do well in the last quarter, but, I mean, probably 7 of 8 quarters in the last 2 weeks have been pretty good. You know, you continue to work on your strengths, but also want to straighten up those weaknesses as well.
Obviously, finals out of the contention now, but you're playing some young kids getting ready for next year. I mean, you found a really couple of beauties really with Marcon, no, he's not playing today, Rioli, these type of guys, Lloyd, they've all stepped up this year at some stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really pleasing for us as a group. I mean, you see a lot of signs throughout the pre-season where you go, oh, this kid can actually play, and then, you know, credit to them, they've all been really consistent in the VFL program this season, and when they've got their opportunity, they've come in and performed. Shorty across half-back as well, and the guys that you mentioned have been outstanding. The challenge for them is to continue to improve. That's what we're looking for from our younger guys, but also all the way up the chain.
Spoken to you a few times this year. Obviously, Martin's season's been outstanding. What's transformed him from being a really good player to being an absolute elite this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just one thing. I think his contested ball's risen to a new level. His willingness to work, to contest. Once he wins it, he's just that powerful sort of player. Like all the gun midfielders in the competition, he's hard to stop. But I've been really impressed with the work he's been doing off field, you know, boxing outside of club hours and just little things that have, I think, kept him in really good stead for not just football, but his life as well. And it's been an impressive thing to watch from afar, but also knowing he's one of my close mates at the footy club, it's been, I'm proud of it as well.
Appreciate your time, mate. Good luck today. Thank you.
Thanks, Moons.
Tigers have made 4 changes. One of those is a newcomer, Callum Moore, who was picked 12 in the rookie draft of 2015, 19 years of age, receiving his jumper from former Tiger himself in Trevor Poole. Also had over 50 games with the Geelong Footy Club as well. But good luck to the 19-year-old. As I said, his first game, and let's hope we hear a lot more of the name Callum Moore in the future. We'll have a look at the Tigers lineup. As I mentioned, they have made 4 changes. Callum Moore is one. The others coming in are Lambert, Elton and Menadue. Ty Vickery, well, you would have to suggest that he is definitely going to be leaving Punt Road. He is out once again. Anthony Miles has had a disappointing season. Drummond and Lennon are also out of the side that has won just 2 games in their last 7, and that finds them in 13th spot on the ladder with 8 wins and 12 losses. St Kilda are looking to make it 11-10 and retain their spot in 10th place. Jaron Geary comes back in, Jack Loney comes back in and Holmes comes back in. He's replacing Tom Hickey, who's carried the St Kilda Ruck division this year. He's probably one of the most improved players in the competition, sadly out with a calf. But the Saints going all right in recent times. They won 4 of their last 7 and are looking, as I said, to make it into positive territory, 11-10. But a big day for North Melbourne down in Tassie, and a lot of pressure on one particular player, and that player is Todd Goldstein. Had a dream start to the season, then had a few injury problems, now looking to get back on top. How does he handle that pressure? We're going to find out in this, the latest Rexona Pressure feature.
I think pressure is, you know, performing in front of 60, 70,000 people. It's, you know, all the focus on me for the first centre bounce, knowing that the whole crowd, the whole stadium is waiting for that first contest. I get the first opportunity to have an impact on the game and to set the tone, and that in itself brings the pressure. So it's about making sure you're as calm as you can, and all that adrenaline's been pushed into that first contest. You try and focus on what your processes are, and for me it's where am I going to hit it, what's my opponent likely to do. The higher you get, the more power you can get into your opponent and get the ball on your side of the contest, the more ability you have to place it where you want it and have more control over where it goes. The team that deals with that pressure and can subside it the quickest, that's the team that often wins the game. In the moment of pressure, Rexona, it won't let you down.
Well, he's got a big job this afternoon as North Melbourne tackles Sydney. I wonder what punters think. Let's find the latest sports bet odds now with Nathan Brown. Brownie?
Thanks, Andy. Well, the Kangaroos won their last 8 at Blundstone, but the punters can't see them making it 9 in a row because Sydney, well, they're a go-anywhere, beat-anyone type of side, and the punters like the surety you get with Sydney. They won 10 of their last 13 against the Kangaroos, double the money on the Sydney Swans in this game. Now, Saturday is multi-day. I love a multi sitting on the couch watching the footy. Sydney win this one. The Tigers at the MCG, GWS Collingwood tonight, and then Adelaide should win. It's paying a not a bad price there, and remember, if one of those league fails, you get your cash back up to $50. So why not get involved, download the app, but please gamble responsibly.
But there's still some good players there. Let's add in the guys that have dropped away on the champion data. player ranking points, which is a really accurate guide, from round 10 onwards, these players have dropped away in their form. Okay, now let's have a look at some of the names there. Okay, Swallow, the captain. You know, he's dropped away, only averaging about 20 possessions a game. He's not damaging enough by foot, and he doesn't spread out of the contest well enough. Cunnington hasn't had a great year, full stop. Todd Goldstein, everyone's talking him up as just the incumbent All-Australian and having an All-Australian year. Been far from it. From round 10 onwards, he's been poor. Now, we know he had an injury, but if he's not getting his 15 to 20 possessions a game, he lacks, or he's really lacking in what he brings to the table for North Melbourne, because he's not like a Mumford who follows up, or a Max Gawn who follows up around the stoppages and creates pressure for the opposition. So he's really struggled. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Lindsay Thomas. Am I going to get good Lindsay Thomas, or am I going to get undisciplined Lindsay Thomas? Gives away free kicks, plays for free kicks. Del Sano, not sure about when the pressure's on in these situations as well. So all of these players have dropped away from round 10 onwards, and that's been a significant part of why North Melbourne have gone backwards. So we have to be critical of their senior players.
The thoughts of Jonathan Brown, and it's going to be very interesting to see if North can stop this disturbing trend of recent weeks and really get back to the form they showed in the opening 9 weeks of the season. Admittedly, they had a pretty soft draw to start with, but they were winning and winning handsomely. Injuries haven't helped them, but they've got a big test this afternoon against Sydney, who are about to come out onto the ground down there in Tassie. A cool day, temperature of around 13, 14 degrees expected. Not quite that yet, however, but this is a very professional outfit, the Sydney Swans, and well, when they last clashed down here, Sydney gave them a decent old hiding, even though North's record is pretty good in this at this ground. They are going to be tested. Sydney, pretty settled. McGlynn, and the big in is Kurt Tippett for Sydney. They have lost Kieran Jack, which will hurt them. Nankervis is also out as well, but they won 6 of their last 9. They're second on the ladder at the moment. They win this game, and at the very end of this game, they will be on top of the AFL ladder. They lose, and Hawthorn will remain in that position until the other sides play. Here comes North. You just see Toddy Goldstein, Lindsay Thomas, 2 players that they are desperate to see really fire up and get back to some top form as they head towards a finals campaign, hoping, of course, that they can make it. 12 wins, 8 losses, hanging on to 8th spot with that percentage of 108.5. They too have made a couple of changes, but they're good changes. Scotty Thompson and Benny Brown come back into the lineup. Nahas and Clark pay the price for those 2 coming back. But they've only won 2 of their last 9, and that has been the problem for North Melbourne, plummeting from top of the ladder down to 8th with those 12 wins and 8 losses. And again, their percentage looking to hurt them, with Melbourne knocking on the door. Of course, the D's have got Carlton this weekend. That is going to be interesting indeed. There's a man who, well, Wells holds a key, so too does Toddy Goldstein for North Melbourne. He had such a wonderful start to the season, but McVeigh and co, they're a tough nut to crack. Let's see how they go. Here's the opening bounce.
Hobart. North Melbourne and Sydney, round 22 action underway. Naismith, who's been a revelation in the ruck. Wells coming through hard off the square was Thomas. Won the hard football and got it to Zeeble. Zeeble will kick it long inside 50. Dorr versus Aliir. What an exciting matchup that'll be. Lloyd and Smith working at ground level for the Swans, and wow, 2 of the more athletic players in the competition. Yeah. See if we've got Dorr and Aliir one-on-one.
Aliir's been a real find for the Swans this year. Terrific. He can read the ball really well, but his execution off half-back, his foot skills are terrific for a first-year player.
So Tippett up against Goldstein. Tippett got his hands on the football, gets it down towards Parker, beats Swallow. Again, we see Thomas apply some pressure, this time on Kennedy. It affects the kick.
He's on, isn't he? That's great to see from Thomas. Off the line, the first bounce came in, won a hard ball, then the pressure on Kennedy. That's exactly what his coach Brad Scott wants to see from him.
Both try to get it to the front of the contest. Here's Parker, gets there ahead of Del Santo. Goes down the line towards Ferrito versus Heaney. It spills to the back. Zeeble arrives, takes Heaney out of the contest, and Tippett comes in and takes Ferrito to the line.
Probably as expected. We're seeing Tarrant trying to pick up Bud here, and Buddy's pushing up the ground as we see him this last period of time being a bit more dangerous.
Majak Dor, they're back in and out of the side so far. So he'll be looking for a big game to try and cement his spot in this Kangaroo side as they do push towards the finals.
Zeeble, the beneficiary of some body work from Swallow, gets it to Del Santo. So the Roos with a bit of football early. Inside 50 again, they track back. Majak Dor back with the flight of the ball into the oncoming traffic and takes a fantastic mark.
That's exactly what he needs to do, to impose himself on the game early. We know he can do some of the flamboyant things, but courage like that, the players around him really grow. If Majak's going back with the flight of the ball, and he's a confidence player, Tim, he really needs to get his hands on it early.
I think Ben Brown just saw him coming through there and just tried to protect him, which was great play, but he ended up copping a knock himself. That's a courageous mark when you go back uncertain of what's coming the opposite direction.
Critical for his confidence. He's kicked 4 goals, 8 at AFL level this season. Can he get an early one here for the Kangas? No, he pushes it across the face. Bright start from North Melbourne. They've controlled the play in the opening couple of minutes.
Around the stoppages too, a couple of times where they've been able to win the ball. And as we've already mentioned, I mean, that's one of the great strengths of the Sydney Swans team.
Lloyd goes long towards the wing. That's a good strong mark taken by Tippett.
That's a great sign, isn't it? Somebody who's been missing a lot of footy to have that sort of touch early.
McVeigh goes to Rowan, who signed a new long-term deal. He's wrapped up by Hansen. Umpire said the ball hit the turf. Goldstein goes looking for Ferrito. He's under pressure from McVeigh. Here's Rowan. He's taken down as well. It's going to be plenty tough in the clinches this afternoon. The Swans, the #1 tackling team in the competition. Welshie, North Melbourne ranked 14th. So that physical pressure, they have to bring that this afternoon.
Yeah, so no mark there by Gary Rowan, but they do, and it's an area you think Kangaroos are really strong in, but the 14th, as you said, in the competition of tackling, the Sydney Swans clearly leading the way with the physicality around the stoppages.
Kennedy paddles to the advantage of Parker and now receives it back, but he's hunted down by Del Santo. Tippett's hands were slick to Towers. He accelerates away, runs to centre half forward, goes to the voice of Grundy. He leaves it for Hanbury. Hanbury goes inside 50, but playing in front is Tarrant.
Read that well, Tarrant. Came off Buddy Franklin, watched the ball, didn't watch Buddy. That's a great sign.
Swallow to Harvey, to Wells. Their 2 best ball carriers. Del Santo sweeps a handball to McMillan. It doesn't quite sit for him, forces him to cut inside. He's run down by Richards. Mills gets the turnover. Hanbury, look out. Wells comes in hard. Coming through is Swallow. He's dispossessed, and Thomas taken to the line. Again, more physical pressure, this time from Wells.
There's a couple of occasions now Tim Wells is really in the first centre bounce. We see him come in and Hanbury. Big hit from Daniel Wells. They've come here with intent. They don't want to be free-flowing footy. They want to put their body on the line.
McVeigh had it momentarily. Parker slips away and dishes off a handball to Tippett. It's smothered off his boot by McMillan. McVeigh takes McMillan down. Parker gets it to Kennedy. He's confronted by Cunnington, but gets a kick away towards half forward. Ferrito couldn't affect the contest. Heaney gives it off to Naismith. The big man off his left. Kicks to the advantage of Franklin. One-on-one. Franklin versus Tarrant. Boundary line closing. Tarrant still there for Papley. Back to Franklin. Tries to work it to Papley. Rowan involved as well. Some anxious moments for the North Melbourne defence, but in the end, Hansen gains some territory, gets it towards Anderson, and that's a little win for the Kangas.
Well, they've defended well the last 2 times that North Melbourne have gone forward. See, Lindsay Thomas there just it's been a really physical start to the game for him, just taking a spell. But the signs are good for the Roos early.
Swallow. It's taken by Kennedy. Tippett, quick hands. Parker runs away from Del Santo to 55. Sizzles a kick towards Heaney. Couldn't quite hang on at ground level. McMillan slaps it out. Pressure comes and Atley has to try and slip Naismith. Gets the hands free to Swallow, who leaves it behind. Opens a door for Lloyd. Quick kick inside 50. Ferrito in good position. Heaney forces a contest. Ferrito happy to take it to the line. And it's a behind a piece. We've played 5.5 minutes in the opening term.
Oh, dear.
Ferrito's kick is wide and not so handsome.
These repeat entries, eventually they wear you down when you're playing against a side like Sydney with all that firepower forward.
So Lance Franklin trotted across to try and pick that one up, but the umpire has given it to Parker.
He's had plenty of the ball without that help too. Already up to 6 disposals, Parker. Make that 7.
7th touch for Parker. Gives it to Rampy. Rampy goes inside 50. Good courage from Tarrant. Couldn't quite hang on. Ferrito, quick kick back towards the wing. Again, the Swans have got some numbers. This is Nick Smith.
Started on Harvey.
Smith goes short to McVeigh. So Jared McVeigh, the veteran. 65 metres from goal. Patient build-up to Xavier Richards, who's added a dimension to this forward line.
He pushes hard to the ball. That was really smart play from him, man.
He pops it up for Tippett. Over the back, off the chest of Naismith. Hanbury lurking dangerously. He's confronted by a couple of tacklers. Anderson slips through Papley and gives it to Dorr. Dorr can flip it over the top to Gibson. Didn't have time to get it to boot. He's taken down by Rowan. Gibson says, well, no prior opportunity. Umpire says incorrect disposal. Zeeble smothers it off the boot of Rowan, then lays a strong tackle on Towers.
What Xavier Richards did before is exactly what he needs to do as a forward, and push hard at the player with the ball and try and break down the defences of North Melbourne. They're getting a lot of numbers back there, crowding Buddy.
Parker third man up, and again it comes to Swallow, who's been prominent early. Fourth touch for him. Mills to Lloyd, and now McVeigh. From the middle of the ground, just floats a handball into the path of Kennedy. Didn't get a kind bounce. Allows Del Santo to close, but he swats him aside. Scrubs a kick towards Rowan at 50. It's read by Anderson. Tries to spin through the tackle. Puts Del Santo under pressure. Del Santo back towards Brown. He forces a contest, and that'll work for Petrie. Now we've got a foot race. Alia's got 5 metres on Majak Dorr. Ball trickling towards the line. Will it get there? It won't. Good body work from Dorr. Keeps it alive. Feeds it back inboard. Smothered off the boot of Harvey. Some scrambling defence from the Swans, but it's still alive for Anderson. Back to Harvey. Harvey to Hansen. Can he pull the trigger? He misses.
It was a really good transition to play there from the Kangaroos, because they're under fire down in their defensive 50. Swans kept getting shots in at goal. They couldn't capitalise, and a quick turnover. And what a sprint race that was with Majak Dorr and Alia there.
Long kick out from Lloyd. Hewitt's his target. Couldn't quite bring it down. Tries to get it to McGlynn at ground level. Now to Parker. Keeps it low towards Franklin. Runs hard to the wing. Tarrant for company. Well played by Tarrant. Chalk up another little win there for Robbie Tarrant.
In the early part of this game, we talked about Buddy actually pushing up the field, which he did with great success against St Kilda last week. But so far in this game, he's actually, even though he's up the ground there now, just trying to draw the footy, he's actually played a lot deeper with Tarrant.
Goldstein and Naismith. Cunnington versus Parker. Parker a fumble. Kennedy gathers the football, sells the dummy and dishes it off to Parker, who goes low towards Papley. Papley towards Hewitt and back to Papley. From centre wing, Clayon's the call. Lloyd under some pressure from Petrie, but he's got support. Grundy, now the switch to Alia. Alia will look up and see Mills all alone on the wing. He'll head in that direction now. Mills can get it and go, but good running from Ben Brown to get across and just hold him up on the mark.
If he had a bit more experience than Alia, he would have come back inside to Smith. He was in the corridor. That would have opened up the whole field for Sydney.
So Mills go down the line. Getting across is Dumont. Naismith gathers the bouncing football and kicks it high inside 50. Papley will arrive late. And Heaney with good strong hands. Papley just stayed off it, waited for the crumb, but there wasn't one. And was that a Falcon?
I think the first touch was with his forehead.
Heaney goes inboard and improves the angle to Jake Lloyd.
And you know, you talk about a lot of Sydney players. Everybody overlooks this bloke. He's having a breakout season for the Sydney Swans. Just watch this again. I think the first one came off his head, didn't it?
There we go. His face. Right off the nose.
Right off the mush. Jakey Lloyd's become an elite type player for the role that he plays for the Sydney Swans.
Averaging 24 touches a game. And from 45 metres out, he gets the opening goal of the afternoon.
And the alarm bells must be going off already in the North Melbourne box about the amount of ball that Luke Parker's had, Welshie.
Yeah, the 9 disposals so far, 5 kicks, 4 handballs. He's just one of these players that keeps getting up. He keeps getting to early touch of them. Kennedy, of course, he's ably supported by some bigger bodies in there as well. But with Parker, he's so damaging when he gets the football. He doesn't blaze away. He's so sharp by hands, always hits a target by foot.
There's a very good finish there by Lloyd. You look at the uncontested possession too. They're just getting it their own way on the outside at the moment. The Sydney Swans 34-17.
Yeah, contested possession's almost level, so they're matching him in close, the Kangaroos, but the Swans getting them out wide. Parker tackled by Cunnington. We've got the handball free to Hanbury, who sizzles one to Papley. Couldn't quite drag it in with the one hand. He's got McKenzie for company. Brings it back inboard. Was looking for Hanbury. Towers involved as well. Here's Hewitt. Went to the voice, but it was picked off by McMillan. McMillan down the line. Aliir gets across to force a contest with Petrie and we'll have a throw in.
He does that quite a lot, Aliir. He can get in the right position. He can lead up, he can spoil, but he's a real team in there in defence. And we know with this great defence that the Sydney Swans have built over the year, you can see him fitting in perfect to this team defence.
This is Towers. Goes inside 50. Franklin and Tarrant again. Hands in the back. Free kick to Tarrant.
Pressure from both sides has been really strong, as evident by kicking efficiency. 38% for North Melbourne. They just can't get any clean ball and transition outside of their defence.
So Tarrant goes out towards Goldstein versus Naismith. Nicely read off the hands by Thomas. He'll go down the line to another one-on-one. This is Petrie versus Grundy. Harvey at ground level, tackled by Mitchell. Handball flips inboard to Wells. Beautiful sidestep, gets away from Towers, buys himself some time and dishes it off to Petrie. Petrie will go inside 50 to Brown. Hometown hero couldn't hang on. North Melbourne at ground level. This is Goldstein, point blank range. And North Melbourne are on the board.
There's a good lead up there by Ben Brown, and that's why he's so important to this side, because he gives them a real focal target up forward. If he doesn't take the mark himself, he brings it to ground all the time. He worked right up outside 50 and cut back and swung back around to make that contest. And this guy Goldstein here hasn't had a great year from his standards, but coming good now at the right time of the year for the Kangaroos. Finish off with a great goal there.
Importantly for North Melbourne, there 3 tools got involved in this. Petrie, the first kick to Brown, the contest, didn't mark the ball. And then Goldstein, and Naismith was right back in the centre of the ground when Goldstein ran forward and kicked that goal. I'm sure he's going to be reminded about that at quarter time.
North Melbourne in front after 13 minutes. Naismith got the tap through the hands of Dumont. Mitchell's kick ineffective. Gibson had a fumble. Dumont goes back again, gets it to Mullet. He couldn't take possession. Parker spins through a tackle, did it well. Penetrating kick towards the goal square was absolutely perfect for Hewitt.
They've got to stop Parker. He's up to 11.
They're the type of touches that he gets. He just doesn't get these little grubby ones, little flick out. He stays strong over the footy, and he's so clean by hand and foot once he does get it in the contest.
Yeah, so Parker not only 11 touches, but at 91%, so he's not wasting them. And this one should be a goal assist if Hewitt can go back and slot it through. He does. So George Hewitt with his 14th goal of the season. Spent so much time learning his trade in the NEFL. 33 games there over the last couple of seasons, Tim. Cemented his spot this year. He's played all but 2 games.
He's been a real find for them, and the fact that he has been able to cement his spot in this side just speaks volumes of his ability and his consistency too. But I get back to Parker. I mean, they really do need to do something about Parker just to dull him.
So a concern here for the Swans. Lance Franklin disappearing down into the rooms for some treatment.
That was that last contest he had about centre-half forward against Tarrant. He just went to the ground.
Yeah, he came in awkwardly, didn't he? Just arrived at that contest late and pulled up a bit lame. So more reports from Sully shortly. Mitchell and Parker. Parker seemed to have an eternity. Play just stopped around him. Ferrito goes the punch at centre-half back. McKenzie spun through a tackle, got it to Dumont. Hanson under pressure. The Swans just ratcheting it up now. Swallow turned it over. Parker, Towers. Here's Parker again. Wants to step inside Swallow, can't quite do so. Now a chance maybe for North Melbourne to get hands on the football. Zeeble under pressure, flips it inboard to a dangerous spot, but he's got some teammates. McKenzie being corralled to the line, and in the end they concede, and that's the sort of pressure they are under right now.
Parker's having some cool. I know we've already spoken about it. He's up to 14 now.
Well, we saw an incredible half of football last week from Dane Zorko. He had 19 touches and 3 goals to half-time. Well, Luke Parker having a similar impact here off the hands of Heaney. Dumont to Swallow. The handball was intended for Wells, but a good result because he paddled it to Thomas. Pretty wide open forward line. Well read by Grundy. Petrie went looking for the body and Grundy went looking for the ball.
That was brilliant by Grundy.
Grundy to Mills, had to stand and wait. He does.
He played the ball as opposed to playing Petrie, where in the end Petrie was actually trying to play him and his body. He caught it beautifully. Searched for the body, couldn't find it, but Grundy in best position. One of the best one-on-one defenders in the competition, Heath Grundy.
Mills to McVeigh off the back edge of the square, and here is Grundy right on cue. Thinks about his options. Wants someone to come to him, so he'll go wide. Hanbury caught behind, one-on-one with Gibson. Gibson tries to paddle, but Hanbury wins the football to Richards. Overlap run to McVeigh. McVeigh can run to 50, crosses the arc, winds it up, goes for home and kicks it.
That was great then by McVeigh. It was great the way that they worked the ball on the outer flank there, and they had the overlap run, but he ran and bounced the ball. His first idea was to actually hit a target before he bounced the ball. He looked up, everybody was covered. He had that space in front of him, so he thought, okay, I'll take that bounce, and then he just steadied himself and finished. And at the moment, the game is clearly on Swans' terms.
Well, we saw the poise of Jared McVeigh there. He just thought through his options. He didn't panic. One of the hardest things to coach a player, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's why he's been such a great player. They've moved him down off half-back so far this season. He's playing on the wing, as you see in the bottom of the screen. That's because he's such a great ball user all over the ground, but in particular, going inside their forward 50.
Tip it down to Parker again. Swallow locks down on him and has a little win this time. And away they come through Zeeble. Zeeble, low kick inside 50, cut off. Mills thumps it long towards the wing. A one-on-one between two speedsters, Rowan and Atley. Kennedy, handball missed the target, opens the door for Hansen. To Cunnington, to Atley. Swallow confronted by Rowan. Rowan goes in now, wins the football, gets it to McVeigh. Quick hands to Mitchell, feeds it through to McGlynn. McGlynn to Tippett. It opens up from 50. Tippett goes for goal. And misses. So slick in close under pressure.
He missed Xavier Richards there too. Xavier Richards got a break on Ferrito, pushed hard towards him, had separation. And it would have been nice for him just to lower the eyes and hit the target.
Ferrito goes long, door forced to spoil. Hanbury got it. A nice little dish inside 50 to Rowan.
What must be a concern for Sydney is Buddy Franklin is still in the rooms. He hasn't been brought back out yet.
We might need to go and search and see if we can actually find that that spot that he injured himself, because he did take a while to get to his feet after that collision.
So Gary Rowan and a 50 for running through the mark. So this makes it a certainty for Gary Rowan. As I mentioned, signed a new 3-year contract extension, ties him to the club till at least the end of 2020. And this now for a very handy early lead for the Swans. It's out to 19 points.
They look sharp, Busher.
You just don't want to be giving those goals away at this time of the game. Just Sam Gibson there running it across the mark. He obviously had a broken nose from training during the week there, so the bar in the gym hit him in the nose. So
So we found the incident, Tim. Here it is. The forearm and elbow from Thompson just into the ribs, kidney area.
Yeah, it looks more like the kidney. Doesn't might be below the rib area there, but it doesn't look too bad. But it's an unprotected part of your body, that.
Franklin yet to emerge as Mitchell gets it to Kennedy. Here comes Tarrant. Storming out, couldn't take the mark, puts his head over the football. Will fight Mitchell and Towers for it at ground level, and we'll have another bounce. So the inside 50 count now, Welshie, up to 13-5 Sydney after North had a few early. It's been all Swans for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and with Buddy off the ground, they're a little bit more unpredictable now up forward. The Swans have got some smaller targets up there.
As some heavy rain starts to fall here at Blundstone Arena. Mills can't quite gather the football. Thomas does. Bends it down the line. Aliir versus Dorr. Dorr in the front position. Slippery ball. Goes to the back. Harvey lurking, but Cunningham will get there first. Off balance kick. Wells waits underneath it. Parker flies early. Thomas flew with the flight and almost hauled it in. Here's Zeeble. Umpire said he ducked into that tackle. Play on the call. Tarrant thumps it high inside 50. Dorr and Aliir. Petrie there as well. Can't quite keep it alive.
It is just some light drizzle from down here, Jace. Shouldn't affect play too much. The skies still look pretty clear, although the lights are on, interestingly.
And good news for the Swans, Buddy's just come back out down now. He looks to be okay and moving freely.
Mitchell tackled by Thomas, and that ball held in. There's Franklin on the boundary.
The one thing you've got to do against Sydney is apply some real pressure and heat to their ball movement. And at this early stage, North Melbourne just haven't been able to sustain that.
Again, it's Parker and Kennedy combining. Through the hands of Richards. Hanson tracks it back. Rowan coming the other way. Gathered by Mackenzie to Mullet. And now Del Santo. Looks up, goes inside 50. Alir and Dorr will fly again. Goldstein cast in the role of a rover. Snaps goalward, but just across the face for a minor score.
That is the beauty of Goldstein playing in deep. He is so dangerous in the air, but nimble on the ground and very good hand to foot. Can kick a goal from almost anywhere.
He's been their most effective small forward so far, hasn't he, Sully?
He almost has. For a man that's 6'8", that's not a bad effort.
Here's Mills from the left back pocket. Goes towards Franklin, who just held up on that run and felt that rib area.
He can't run.
Gives a little handball to Papley. McVeigh might want to check his rib area as well as Cunnington comes through and rattles the bones.
That's a bad sign there for Buddy. Just watching him now, just trying to jog back to the foot. Just watch, he just pulls up suddenly there too.
Just looking back over the bench too, as though to say, you know, get me off, boys.
Maybe some rib cartilage. Mitchell, Parker and Zeeble. And over the top is Swallow.
And Buzz just coming off the ground here again. Obviously pretty sore from that elbow into that rib area. Let's hope he's okay for Sydney's sake.
Yeah, and you're right, Sully, and that's not something that rights itself quickly either.
No, it's certainly not. They're really painful, those rib injuries, and can stick around for quite a while.
Wells to Del Santo, quick hands. Zeeble to Atley, had to get rid of it quickly. 2-on-1 here in favour of the Swans, and Mills. What a young player he is. Certainly lived up to the hype and the expectations. And here's Hanbury. Hanbury goes looking for Xavier Richards.
He works hard, Richards, doesn't he? Works up hard forward, presents really well.
Wants to move it on quickly. Tippett in good position. One-on-one with Hanson. Slippery ball left behind by Tippett with body strength. Won the football. Papley and Tarrant. How will the umpire read this one? Deliberate.
Straight out. Sydney kick go through.
So Papley will have it. He'll want to go quickly. Improves the angle. Bends it back magnificently. Beautiful finish from Tom Papley. Good heads-up play. Got on quickly. Gained that extra 5 metres and finished superbly.
That was smart, wasn't it? That's his 20th goal for the season too, and I'm sure that the Sydney Swans didn't expect that sort of productive play from him this season, but he's become a really important player for them at ground level in the forward line. Just looking now, also Wushred, how they're going to reconfigure their forward line, the Sydney Swans. Nobody. We probably won't see him again this afternoon, given it's a rib injury. There's definitely a tap over the boundary line there by Tarrant, but obviously, you know, they've got Xavier Richards now. He's going to play out of the goal square, and they've got Tippett to push deep at different times as well. So they've still got some firepower there.
Pretty exciting build-up though when you look at Mills. Took an intercept marker defence right through, another youngster in Papley finishing the goal. It's pretty exciting times for the Swans. You traditionally think they're a bit of an older side, but you look at some of their young stars like Lloyd, Cunningham, Nankervis, Alir, Hewitt and Heaney. They're flushed with young stars.
Parker dispossessed. Wells won the football, fed it back to Goldstein, and now Del Santo towards half forward again. It's a 2-on-1. Mills couldn't take it this time. Harvey tries to feed it through to Brown. He's immediately tackled by Grundy, and it's a good point, Welshie, because there's 6 guys playing today who have only cemented their spot on the team this year. Mills, Hewitt, Naismith, Alir, Papley and Richards. Really hadn't heard much of any of these guys before this season. And they've all stepped up and playing their role, aren't they?
They've got some great leaders showing them the way.
Here's Petrie. Chance for the Roos to get a late one. Gains some space at 48 metres. Kicks across the face of goal. Rampy tracks it back, and it'll be out of bounds on the full.
The rain is starting to get a little bit heavier down here at the moment. Hopefully it doesn't affect the players' ball handling too much.
North Melbourne just on 9 points at the moment. The bad news for them is that this is the best defensive side in the competition too. The most difficult side to score against this season. Against, they average about 68 points a game, Sydney, so they make it extraordinarily difficult for you to move the ball and score against them.
Tarrant couldn't quite take the mark. Atley to Mullet, but he's straight away taken to the line by Papley. So if you are Brad Scott, what sort of conversations, gentlemen, are happening in the North Melbourne box right now?
Well, you need to make sure that Parker is contained. I mean, that's the first thing. The players around the ball are doing some damage for the Sydney Swans now.
Goldstein down to Cunnington. Quick kick, almost at the 50, was picked off by Lloyd. Harvey looking to get involved to Dumont. He's tackled by Parker, still harassing him. Harvey tried to get it to Swallow. Hewitt got an important hand in there. Harvey goes again, third attempt. McVeigh over the top of him. Umpire hovers and calls for it.
They really need to stop him in and around the footy. Kennedy as well, he's had the 10 disposals, and these guys, they don't waste the footy when they get it. They're so damaging going forward. Richards leading up. They need to stop it in here at the source.
Cunnington under pressure, gets it to Gibson. Harvey through his hands. Pushes Lloyd in the back, play on the call. Dumont goes through. He can't gather. Harvey can. Tight angle. The veteran squares it to Dorr. Couldn't quite haul it in with one hand. Aliir there to pressure. Socket off the ground. Goes to Del Santo. And he kicks a goal. Important steadier, that one for North Melbourne. Margin back to 18 points with 3 minutes to play in the first.
It fell to the right bloke on the right side, didn't it? It favoured his left foot. We know what a clever player he is, Del Santo, and he's proven that over the journey. But he is one of those North Melbourne players that has to have a significant contribution today for them to actually work their way back into the game.
So Lance Franklin walking the boundary line once again, heading back down towards the rooms.
Interestingly enough, Scotty Thompson's gone down into the rooms in the hands of the medical team as well. Unsure of what the ailment is at the moment, though.
Kennedy once again away from the stoppage. Parker and Kennedy so damaging in this opening term. McGlynn under some pressure, surrounded by 4 Kangaroos. Muller to fumble, then lays one slightly high on Cunningham. Umpire says play on. So much pressure in the back half. McKenzie. Here comes Parker and Hanbury. Spills to McGlynn. Parker sockers it off the ground. Just misses.
Didn't miss by much. It's become a really difficult ball to handle at the moment too, Woosha.
Yeah, it has. Good to see Benny McGlynn back in the side. He's been fighting away at knee full level and got his opportunity, obviously, with Kieran Jack going down and training with the ankle injury. So he's one that could really jump out for the Swans late in the season, coming into finals and getting his hands on the ball early and in and contested footy.
Yeah, he's played the last 4 in the knee full, Ben McGlynn, and here's Tarrant. Marks in front of Hewitt.
Good replacement for a hard nut like Jack too, isn't he?
They've got some remarkable depth now, the Swans. Done so well at just bringing players through that NEFL team and giving them long apprenticeships. This is Zeeble at half-back.
That's probably the area that Kangaroos have struggled. They've had players, they've had injuries this year, but their players coming in just haven't been able to stand up to the level like the young Sydney Swans players have.
Tarrant to Del Santo. Important fist in there from Anderson. Works beautifully. Mullet now can go over the top to the run of Gibson. Will it sit for him? Petrie will get there with Heath Grundy, rather. And here is Hanbury. Richards and Hanbury combine. Kennedy has to stand and wait. Hansen collects him. Mullet goes to ground. Tries to keep it moving to Dumont, who sockers it forward. Here's a chance for Dorr. Comes out at speed. Aliir in his pocket. Gives it to Thomas. Snap from Thomas. Bouncing ball right to the goal line, and that one narrowly misses as well.
I don't think I've seen Aliir have this much trouble with an opponent this season. He's only played a handful of games, Aliir, but Majak Dorr is pushing really hard to the ball, and his athleticism and his speed is really troubling him.
So Mills kicks it long towards Parker again, under pressure from McMillan at the moment, looks to have the job. Parker up to 16 touches, his most in a quarter this season. He is having an incredible game so far.
We spoke about Rampy and his importance to the Sydney backline. He's playing on Ben Brown at the moment. Almost tight tag. Brown has yet to actually touch the ball.
Naismith and Goldstein wrestle.
High tackle, North Melbourne. Goldstein.
A late goal here for the Kangaroos will be handy. They just shuffle their numbers back. Sydney will get back with numbers 2.
And with rain tumbling down, they just need to stay close right now. Inside 50, Brown doesn't make it to the contest. It falls to Dorr. Dorr to Harvey, but he can't quite haul it in. And you're right, Tim, if they could get a late one here and go to quarter time, only 2 goals down, they will have done amazingly well, really.
That's almost a win in itself, because they have been dominated by the Sydney Swans.
Inside 50, starting to square up again. It's 16-13 Sydney's way. North with a bit more ball in the last 6 or 7 minutes at their end of the ground. Lloyd to McVeigh. Quick kick. It was a blind kick, and it's so often a dangerous kick. Del Santo adjudged to have not stepped off his line, so he can go back and take his shot from 50. Needs to get a bit of momentum up so that he can attack the goal and get the distance, and he does it beautifully. Del Santo's got 2 and North steady the ship. So Del Santo up to 9 possessions and 2 goals. Zeebel's had 8. Swallow, Harvey with 7 apiece. Wells with 6. So their senior players are getting involved. It's just that next tier down that now need to get in and provide the support.
And importantly, Del Santo, a midfielder kicking goals. We talked about this pre-game, about the fact that they haven't been able to get as many goals from their midfielders as what they've needed. They've relied on their key forwards, but that's a real win for him, and his last 5 minutes has been good.
So Del Santo with a couple of goals brings North Melbourne back to within a couple of goals. 20 seconds remaining in this opening term. Naismith again, beautifully down to Hanbury. Their clearance work in the first term has been outstanding. The Swans, important fist from McMillan. Mullet's taken down, dragged off the football. Spills to Hewitt. 10 seconds remaining. Twists and turns, handballs to himself, slaps it to Kennedy. Swans need a kick inside 50. It comes from Cunningham. 3 seconds left. Richards goes up, couldn't hang on. And North Melbourne do. So quarter time, entertaining contest. North Melbourne fighting back with a couple of late goals. And the margin at quarter time is 12 points. Sydney 5-4-34. North Melbourne 3-4-22. Quarter time on Saturday Arvo Footy. Action-packed opening term at Blundstone Arena. The Swans flexing their muscle midway through that term to get out to a handy little lead before the Kangaroos responded late. And at quarter time, it's the visitors by 12 points. Sydney 5-4-34, leading North Melbourne 3-4-22 as we check the major ball winners. And Luke Parker, Kennedy, Hanbury all involved. Del Santo, really important opening term from the veteran, 10 possessions and 2 goals as we head down to Brad Sewell.
Lee, great that you got back into the game in the second half of that quarter. What did you change?
I think we just got a bit cleaner at the stoppages early. The Swans were, they were harder at the contest and they used the ball well early, and we started to do that a bit later in the quarter.
Lukey Parker's been really damaging for the Swans. Did you send someone to him?
Yeah, well, we've got our structures in play at the stoppages, but Dumont might be the one that might go to him.
And Scotty Thompson, is everything okay there?
Yeah, he's just getting checked now, so hopefully he can come back on.
Good, Lee. Thanks for that.
So Lee Tudor, the assistant, as we take another look here at the story of the day so far, Tim. It's Lance Franklin and that injury, the forearm and elbow just into that rib area, that unprotected area, just maybe under the bottom rib.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know.
It looks innocuous, doesn't it?
It does. It just didn't look like a massive sort of an incident, but he came back onto the ground a little later after some treatment. There he is going off the ground. He came back a little bit later, went for the ball, and he was really troubled by that. But we're seeing him start the second quarter again, so maybe there has been some recovery during the break. It's not an area of the body that you can actually whack a needle in and put it to sleep, though.
So the second quarter gets underway at Blundstone Arena. The Swans with a 12-point lead. Naismith, who's done so well in the ruck in the first term around the ruck tap work. And once again, it's Kennedy getting it to Hanbury. They go towards the 50. Spills to Gibson. Now Wells on the burst. Runs through the wing. Tumbles it towards half forward. Mills there. Door there. It spills to the back for Lloyd. Pursued by Harvey. Coughed up the handball. Thomas off a step. Snaps at goal and misses. So Tim, in that first term, 14 first possessions to Parker, Kennedy and Mitchell.
And this is one of the reasons why. Look at the tap work there by Naismith. I mean, that actually has gone to the favoured side there of Kennedy. He slipped over, but he was still able to get a handball off to Hanbury, and they're able to move the ball.
Smith. Support run from Lloyd, who goes towards Naismith versus Goldstein. Beautiful mark by the big fella. So Naismith's been a revelation as a tap ruckman. Goldstein still getting involved around the ground. He's been pretty important in their own forward 50. This is Zeeble. His 9th touch coming up. Goes towards Brown. Sets himself across the contest was Tippett.
That's powerful, isn't it? He just set his mind on taking that mark about 15 metres before he got to the ball. And that's somebody that's been out of football for a while coming back. We thought he might have been a little bit rusty today, but he's been really sharp.
His awareness, he saw Mills one-on-one with Brown, saw his misfit and moved everything he could to get over there and took the intercept mark.
First game since injuring his hamstring tendon in round 12 for Tippett, but no ring rust so far. Be interesting to see how he runs the game out. Harvey to Gibson. Now Atley goes looking for Thomas. One-on-one with Smith. At ground level, it's Swans through Rampy. Alia steps through 2 tackles with the greatest of ease. Did it beautifully. Such poise for a youngster. And he hits up Rowan on the back edge of the square. Rowan will kick it long. Naismith has the sit on for Rito. Nice front and centre by Papley, who bounced at just the wrong moment.
Holding the ball.
And Harvey ran him down.
That's inspiring for his teammates there too by Brent Harvey.
Gives it to Tarrant at centre half back. And certain of his options goes to a contest. Cunnington versus Heaney. Cunnington wins it. The run from McMillan. Will poke it out in front of Thomas. He's got a couple of metres and the mark. And that run-down tackle from Harvey results in a shot for goal for Lindsay Thomas at the other end.
It was a good build-up. It was a good build-up. We see the tackle here from Harvey, the veteran chasing down Tarrant. Took the risk, went inside to Cunnington, and great finish inside 50 there. Lindsay Thomas got a bit of protection from the stand here, so hopefully the wind isn't too much of a factor.
Well, we see it so often. Papley bounced the football as soon as he got it. He actually could have run his 10 metres, then bounced it, and that's what did him in the end, wasn't it? Harvey managed to reel him in. Thomas, important kick, pushes to the right. It's not going to make it. Sets up for a contest right on the line. Tippett tries to slap it through, but it bounced kindly for Lloyd. He'll clear it to Mills. Now Smith. He'll work it towards Franklin. This will test the ribs. He gets crunched from both sides. McVeigh at ground level against Swallow. Door comes through. It's intercepted by Kennedy, touched by Harvey off his boot. Hanson tries to work Franklin under the football. Sliding in and going hard as always is Parker. Heaney. Quick kick to a one-on-one. Richards versus Ferrito. Richards will get there first. Well read by Atley.
Just might head to Brad Sewell now for an update on Scotty Thompson. We know that he left the field during that first term. Sully, what can you tell us?
Yeah, he did. It's looking like he's got some ice on his groin. Generally, when players are icing up this stage of the game, it might be the last we see of him. And Bud's not moving too well down here either. Grabbing the side of that flank he's had knocked earlier. Let's hope he can stay out there and finish the game.
Swallow to Siebel's got to be quick. The speedster Rowan almost gets it. McMillan. High ball, sets up for Brown at the front through his hands. Dorr, deft little tap to Harvey. Didn't take possession. Rampy shoves him aside. And yeah, we saw there with Thompson, just the ice on the left groin there for Scott Thompson.
Things just starting to open up a little bit in general play for the Kangaroos and their ability to move the ball. We know that the Swans are one of the best pressure sides, but just things starting to go North's way a bit.
Definitely. Inside 50s now favouring the Kangaroos, 19-17, so they're getting their share of ball. McMillan wins the contest. Handball too ferocious for Siebel. Harvey gathers inside the line. Thought about the handball, goes with the kick. Dorr, again, can only get one hand to it.
You know the great thing about Dorr, though, in the early part of this game, he hasn't been outmarked. Even though he hasn't marked the ball, he's actually been able to keep the ball in his territory, and generally the ball has come down the front to one of the coming players. Hasn't always been there, but it's been directed there.
He's just so powerful in the torso, isn't he? He's hard to shift off the drop zone. Kennedy tries to slip away from Thomas. Wells gathers, but he's taken down. Thomas, quick snap at goal from Thomas. It's going to drop short. Brown bustles and Rampy takes a fantastic contested grab under pressure.
There we just see Rampy again, those one-on-one contests. Brown back into the side. He's a big player for them, still yet to touch the ball. Rampy one-on-one, just uses his body so well.
Rowan sets himself at the back, flies over the top of McMillan. Heaney front and centre, gets it to Hanbury. Now a chance to work through the middle. This is Parker. Steps around Atley. Now he's confronted by McMillan. Uses the support of Kennedy, who has to float it wide. Good pressure from the Kangaroos. What looked like a fast break for the Swans has worked laterally to the line.
The Swans' forwards are getting so far up the ground. When they get that quick break off half-back, they've actually got no one to kick to. You don't see Bud tearing back towards goal in the way we have in those last couple of weeks.
So the tide turning the Kangas' way. They need to put it on the scoreboard now. Anderson, through traffic, did well. Got it to Swallow. A 2-on-1 inside 50. Dorr won't quite get there. Awkward bounce for him, will be tidied up by Mills. Always seems to have so much time, Callum Mills. Links up with Rampy and now gets it back. Cruises through defensive 50 and hits up McVeigh on the back edge of the square. McVeigh off to Lloyd. Back to McVeigh. Pressure comes from Swallow. And again, we see the Kangaroos' defensive structure holding up under pressure from half-back.
They've really improved since about the 20-minute mark of the first term.
7th tackle for Swallow.
Swallow gives it off to Atley, who goes wide towards Petrie, who's yet to have an influence, just the 3 touches.
That's the great part about Swallow, and that's the best part of his game, is the pressure and his aggression around the contest. Not one for goal assists, not one for kicking goals himself, but he leads that department of their game.
Kangaroos have gone inside 50 9 times this quarter already. Sydney yet to. The Kangaroos have only hit the scoreboard once with their 9 entries.
Yeah, they need to capitalise, don't they, Sawley? Here's Atley. Shows Papley a clean set of heels. McMillan's been important. Now to Mullet. He can use McKenzie. McKenzie can get onto that favoured left boot. Just pulls this one short. It was tidy to Gibson. Thought about the give back to McKenzie, but Hanbury was there for company. So he goes short to Wells. Wells looks up and sees Petrie. Nice, deliberate build-up from the Kangaroos, and Drew Petrie from 48 metres out directly in front.
And a composed entry there from Wells. Generally what happens when you've got 3 key forwards down there, you bomb it in long and just hope for the best. But nice to see Wells. We know he's got so much class with ball in hand. Lower his eyes there and hit Drew.
So this for a bit of return on the investment they've put in, all the effort so far in this second term, to get them back within a kick here. Drew Petrie's had a great month. That one starting way right. And off the hands of the contest, and Naismith for a minor score.
Well, the only place they're not winning right now is on the scoreboard, North Melbourne.
Need to start making it count, because you know the Swans are going to try and wrest that momentum back at some stage. As McVeigh goes.
They've lost their ability to actually be able to penetrate this North Melbourne defence. They've really set themselves up well in that grid in the middle part of the ground.
Tip it down to Towers was clever. He'll go inboard. Here's Mitchell. Now a chance maybe for the Swans to get a bit of run. But even then, the Kangas back in numbers to hold them up and make them kick over the mark. Mitchell goes short and finds McGlynn.
Well, the problem was that all their forwards are pushed so high up the ground.
McGlynn will go to a one-on-one in the pocket for Rito versus Tippett with strength.
Just been an impressive return for him.
Just so big and powerful. 202 centimetres and 108 kilos. He runs around, snaps goalward, but misses to the near side. Minor score for Kurt Tippett. 2 behinds to him, but he's been involved.
Yeah, he has. He's been involved up forward, but also in the last line of defence is what you want to see. So we're conscious that he didn't just come into the side and sit deep in the forward and try and just work himself into the game. He's been on the last line of defence. He's been in the ruck, so certainly an impressive start back for Kurt Tippett.
When you miss as much footy as he has and he comes back in such good touch, so it speaks volumes of what he's been doing away from playing to be able to keep his touch over that period of time.
You see players will take him a couple of weeks to get up to the speed of playing AFL footy. With such a great system they've got there at the Swans, he's just stepped straight in. A lot of work has been done behind the scenes to get him ready for his first game back.
Del Santo.
Not 15,
Not 15 to Atley. Goes down the line. Brown against Aliir. Awkward one for Brown. Dumont at ground level. Wrapped up by Mitchell. Ball spills out. Chance for Franklin. Beaten to it by Brown, who had one arm pinned.
Sydney,
and had no option but to throw it.
Throw. Straight to Jared. Thank you.
Perfectly timed tackle by McVeigh. He spears it inside 50. McGlynn just had to stop and prop. It had a bit more on it than he expected. Bit of interesting byplay between he and McMillan in that previous contest. McMillan didn't appreciate the late treatment.
Play on now.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. Could get a little bit fiery. Beautiful hands from Brown. And that's when he's at his best, Ben Brown, when he can just present full-chested at the football and take it out in front of his face. It's difficult to stop with his size and mobility. So back to McMillan. Again, the Kangaroos prepared to be patient. This is McKenzie. He spots Harvey as next link in the chain.
They've really targeted Aliir, the Kangaroos. Whoever he's been playing on, they've actually had that bloke pushing hard at the ball, so they're really testing the inexperienced player.
Wells provides an option, and now for Rito. Thought about the little gift to Harvey, but again, they're happy to just take their time and build it up. Now he decides he'll kick it long. Brown's got a couple to beat, and too easy to pick it off there from Naismith. Not the result they were looking for after the patient build-up. If you are going to take that time, Welshie, the Swans are going to get numbers back. You've got to be precise with your entry.
Yeah, and we've seen it. This is what the Swans have unfortunately had to do. Is Kangaroos zone this part of the ground so well, and they're going to have to kick long like they've just done there. So if you're going to build it up, you need to make sure that you can transition that play right down the field.
You've got to hold your nerve. Tarrant, Gibson, knew he had some support. Now Wells can run through the front edge of the square. Tries to float it to Dumont. Will it get there? It won't. Once again, Callum Mills gets back and reads it perfectly.
That wasn't a great kick by Tarrant, but gee, has he been impressive again in defence. So there's a lot of people pushing him up for one of the all-Australian key defensive positions, such has been his season this year.
It's a great year, Tarrant, as has Mills. Good work from Atley. And the raps on Mills coming through is he was always a year behind Isaac Heaney, and we saw Heaney last year and how good he was. And the word from around Sydney was Mills is even better. So seeing him this year, he had a huge hype to live up to, and hasn't he done well?
And he's a midfielder too.
So Naismith gets one hand to it. Cunnington feeds it backwards to Del Santo. He'll go towards Brown. Mills will arrive late, but can't get there to impact that contest. And Brown versus Rampy above the head is always going to favour the Kangaroo.
That is the perfect positioning, though. If you're one-on-one against an undersized defender, to have the ball just put in there with no height on it either, so Rampy couldn't get a run and a jump at it.
And Mills couldn't get across. So Ben Brown, once again a chance to bring them within a kick. They've dominated play in the second term, but not enough to show for it. The proud Tasmanian missed last week with a knee injury. But again, they miss. Some costly mistakes around goal for the Kangaroos at the moment. They're 3 goals 7, 10 to 5-5, so 10 shots apiece.
3 set shots this quarter too. All gettable.
Had 7 of the last 10 scoring shots, North Melbourne. They need to capitalise whilst they've got the momentum in this quarter.
They've really slowed Luke Parker too. He's on 18, but he had 16 at quarter time.
They've slowed the Swans in general. Aaliyah goes long towards Franklin at the back. Tackled and taken down by Swallow. Thomas to Zeeble. He'll pump it long. Petrie versus Grundy. Petrie gets a hand to it. Front and centre is Anderson. Can he slip away? He goes to ground. Handball inboard. Brown throws it on his boot. That's touched off the boot. And it's slapped forward to Towers. And Rampy happy to see it out.
You can just see Aaliyah's a little bit uncertain today. Tim said they're dragging him right up the ground. In the last few weeks, he would have flown for that ball to help Grundy out. He sat off then and sort of was in two minds of what to do. So the Kangaroos have certainly gone after him to get him out of his comfortable zone.
Goldstein tries to get it down to Gibson. Now to Swallow. Uses Harvey off a step from 48 metres. Tumbles it towards Petrie. It sits in his lap and he goes. So all the hard work eventually results in a goal, and the Kangaroos were 24 points down at the 26-minute mark of the first term. Now it's just a 4-point game.
And at that stage, the Sydney Swans were playing all over, and they were actually moving the ball at will. But since that point of time, they've been able to really close them down, particularly between the arcs and around the stoppages where they were getting a lot of supply with their midfielders. And really, they should be in front. They've had all the play in this second term.
So North Melbourne with the last 3 goals of the game.
It was a nice little flick up there, wasn't it? Little pop up. They've been missing the set shots. You've got to take those ones.
So Drew Petrie, I mentioned what a good month he's had coming into today's game. In the last 4 weeks, kicked 7 goals 6. And 3 goals last week against the Hawks. Kangaroos with their tails up. Zeeble goes towards Brown. He crunches a contest, forces it to ground. Anderson works Aaliyah off it. Petrie tried to get the handball to Thomas, but he's wrapped up by Aaliyah.
Yep. Thanks, buddy.
And for the first time this afternoon, the Sydney defence now under some real pressure.
Yeah, no, they're putting some real heat on the back 6 for Sydney.
Naismith tries to get it down to Parker. Here's Hanbury. This is how the Swans can get back in control of the game. It's their clearance work, but they haven't had many clearances in this second term to win. As Lloyd goes towards Heaney versus Ferrito. Ferrito with body strength held him off it and waited for Mullet to arrive, but Gibson stepped it over the line.
That's another small win for the Kangaroos, though. The first 2 players to get across to that one-on-one were Kangaroo players to assist. That's a great sign when you're playing a game of football. Who can get there first to outnumber the opposition? Who's working that touch harder? And the Kangaroos have since about the 20-minute mark of that first term.
So a win today, and North Melbourne will play finals. A loss, and they can still miss out. Del Santo to Cunnington. Confronted by Naismith and then Parker, and loses the handle on it.
Sydney.
It's going to come back to Luke Parker. We mentioned 16 touches in the first quarter. This is just his 3rd for the second term, and we've played almost 16 minutes. Zeeble going with him at the moment. And this is Josh Kennedy again, another player who was everywhere in the opening term, but hasn't been able to get his hands on the football. And that kick misses Grundy. That now opens it up at the back for Anderson. Had a fumble, follows it up himself. Coming the other way was Parker. Anderson goes a 3rd time, but he's beaten by Heaney. Hanbury's handball missed the target. Mitchell somehow punched it through traffic. Got it to Heaney. He kicks to a one-on-one inside 50. Richards, well done. Well played by McMillan. He storms away off half-back. Has 3 bounces. Carries it over the wing. Waits for Brown to lead. He doubles back with 2 to beat. Here comes Brown. Front and centre Heaney. And the Swans have got some numbers back. Rampy to Lloyd. He'll go long. Hewitt had to provide a contest and did. It was important. At least got the ball to ground, allows Rowan to pounce. He uses it to Kennedy. One-on-one inside 50. Parker goes to ground, so Mitchell gives it back to Kennedy from 51 metres. It's a wide open goal square, but the kick dragged left for Josh Kennedy. One of the rare misses for him this season. Had 13 goals, 3 for the year until that kick.
Again, we're seeing Sydney play their forwards so high, so when they get the ball around the arc or further back than that in their half, they haven't got anyone to kick to, which is why they're handballing, trying to buy time for their teammates to get forward.
So 5-point game.
So Park was the only real one for then, and he slipped over as Jace called. So you're spot on. They're pushing right up the ground in limited numbers behind the footy.
He was quite shallow in that if he teared back towards goal, Kennedy could have just placed it over in front, but because he slipped and he was so close, wasn't able to get it to him.
Chain of handballs. McMillan involved off half-back as Harvey gives it to Gibson. He looks up and goes to Petrie right on 50, and he takes it low down. Wants to move it on quickly. Gibson will steady up. Goes towards the top of the square. Not sure if that was a pass or a miss kick, but it ended up right on the chest of Rampy.
They didn't get the desired result, but you see the tape on the face there of Gibson after that training accident during the week. Smashed his nose, had a couple of stitches, had some surgery during the week. They didn't get the desired result, but they moved the ball from one end of the ground to the other.
And copped a barbell across the nose in the gym as Petrie goes short to Zeeble, who can go the distance from right on 50.
Sydney just caught napping all over the ground here. North are winning the one-on-one contests from their back line right to their forward line, and they're finding space as they move forward.
So Sully, Swans had the game on their terms for the opening 20-odd minutes. 25 minutes, really. It's been on North's terms ever since.
It really has. And inside 50s for this quarter, 16-4 in North's favour, which is remarkable.
The Zeeble kick from right on 50. Gives it a launch. It looks good. It just collects the post 3/4 of the way up. Minor score for the Kangas. And it's a 4-point game. Cunningham receives the short kick in from Lloyd, and again we just don't see that same fluency the Swans had in the first term. So Cunningham will go short and try to pick their way through the zone.
It is a big stat, isn't it? 16-4 inside 50s this quarter for the Kangaroos, and they just haven't been able to capitalise on it against a side like the Sydney Swans. Those little chances every time inside 50, you need to be making sure they count.
Yeah, 1-4 to 2 behinds this term. Long kick over the head of Tippett. The Roos have the first couple back. Ferrito gets their first. Flips a handball over Richards to Hansen. Now Del Santo on his wrong side, so he retreats to Hansen. Cunnington has to wait as Rowan tries to shut him down. The Kangas concede about 80 metres but retain possession. Dumont will bring it back from where it came. This is Cunnington. And again, we see this deliberate build-up. Del Santo, Dumont, and now Tarrant. Awkward kick for Petrie, but he took it cleanly. The handball went straight to Mitchell. Maybe now the Swans can get them on the counter. He wobbles a kick towards Heaney at 50.
That was a critical turnover then from the Kangaroos, because you know at that part
there's a bit of push and shove, bit of byplay on in the background.
Buddy involved.
Yep, Franklin and Hansen.
There's always going to be players forward
15 seconds
once you get a turnover at that critical part of the ground, and that's exactly what they had, the Sydney Swans. There's about 4 players that were out in space.
So this one would sting if Heaney can put it through. All the effort North have put in. And he misses as well. So goals hard to come by in this opening half. It's 5-7 to 4-8. The Swans retain the lead, but only by 5 points. Wells floats a kick to Gibson, and he marks at his own defensive 50. That's what he's got down the line.
They don't contest the position, though. We were talking about earlier about how lopsided it was. It's almost evened up now, Jason.
Interesting kick over the head of Hansen. They tracked it back, and Cunningham's inboard is taken by Harvey. Now to Zeeble. What's he got in front of him? Heaney's hand was important. Got it away from Harvey. Kennedy taken. Umpire says a throw.
Dumont's out here too.
So Harvey has it. He goes to the far side. Zeeble been prominent in his second term. High kick inside 50. And once again, Mills just picks it off.
He's a smart player. You're a defender. He just plays the ball on its merits, Woosha.
Yeah, he does. And for a player so early in his career, his ability to read the ball. But they've got a few of the Swans like that just can pick and intercept marks quite readily in defence.
Ferrito out of position, and Richards keeps his eye on the football to take the mark. Lead short is a good one from Hewitt.
Thanks, Nick.
Franklin offers a short lead, but he'll go wider to Rowan. Rowan will look up. There's Franklin leading short to the pocket. It's ignored. Richards tracks back. Heaney's right there on the goal line. Great view of this one as he just sets it up towards the top of the square. Heaney will arrive. North with plenty of numbers. Mitchell at the back. It spills. He snaps. And misses. Well, plenty of numbers there for the Kangaroos, but they let it get over the back.
Saw Xavier Richards there in the build-up again. The younger brother of obviously premiership star Teddy Richards. He's been terrific the last 6 odd weeks since he's come in the side. His athletic ability is phenomenal. He just keeps working up. He's still got a lot to learn. He's been on the list for a long time, but great signs for the Sydney Swans.
Tarrant receives from Del Santo.
Oh, look at the read there by Mills again.
And he takes it off the boot of McKenzie. Brings it inside 50, off the hands of Richards. Mitchell taken down immediately. Swallow got it to Del Santo. Beautiful smother from Parker. Slips through. Can't quite get boot to ball, but Rowan does. Umpire will check it. The Swans like it for a goal. This will be reviewed.
I believe it's a goal. I'd just like to see if it was touched off the boot.
Score review. Umpire's call is a goal. Can we please confirm that it wasn't touched first?
So there has to be overwhelming evidence that it was touched.
Not on that angle, there's not. You'd have to pay if that's the best vision that they're going to be able to look at, then you'd have to pay that the goal.
Review completed. Confirm goal.
Confirm goal.
Rowan gets his second.
You go all the way back to Mills then. Again, the last 2 times the ball has gone in his territory as a player, he's played the ball on its... Again, he beat Brown to the ball purely because he wasn't worried about Brown. He's actually looking at the kick. He was looking at the position of the kick. He's looking at the read on the ball in the air. You just cannot teach a player what that kid has naturally.
So a mad scramble in the goal square. Rowan throws his boot at it and gets his second, and the Swans double their lead. Back out to 12 points with a minute to play in the first half. Tippett now in the ruck against Goldstein. Tippett gets an emphatic tap, but straight to Zeeble, and now Goldstein to tidy it up. Puts it into the path of Wells. Wants to step inside Kennedy, but he won't be lured, so he has to go back to Harvey, now to Wells. He'll bring it inboard to Zeeble. Swans with every single player forward of the football now as Franklin comes square. Here's Hanson to McMillan. He floats it out to Atley. Atley will go to McKenzie. Important grab, but Lee's got it into the path of McMillan, who goes inside 50. Brown has to stand and wait as Rampy came across the front of the contest. Tippett at ground level. Paddles to Richards. Mitchell to Hanbury. Now Towers. Couple of men inboard. He stopped and cropped, and Thomas came in over the top as Gibson runs Hanbury down, and umpire will say that's a throw. So 15 seconds left for the Kangaroos to get it back inside 50 and get a grab or a crump.
It wasn't. It was play on.
They were out, but they just went the wrong way.
Yep. Gibson to Atley. We're down to 10 seconds. They need that long ball in. Atley will kick towards 50. They need a mark, but it's all Swans, and Parker with the final act of the first half. Entertaining half of football. The Swans steadying after North Melbourne dominated most of that quarter, and in the end, they broke even.
Yes, a very tight first half between North Melbourne and Sydney down there at Blundstone Arena. Just 2 goals separating the two sides in a low-scoring affair. North Melbourne 4 goals 8, 6 goals 8 to the Sydney Swans. A couple of interesting games taking place at the moment as round 22 continues. When we come back after the break, we'll also check on all the action from the MCG, Richmond and St Kilda, and bad news as far as the Saints are concerned with injury to one of their key players. That is coming up on Super Saturday.
It's half-time in Hobart on Jeep Super Saturday.
Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying Super Saturday. Of course, a lot of the action coming to you from Blundstone Arena down there in Tasmania between North Melbourne and Sydney. Low-scoring game, first half, just the 10 goals scored, 6 goals, 8 to 4 goals, 8. 2 multiple scorers, Rowan for Sydney. Nicky Del Santo got a couple of early goals for North Melbourne, but he's having a pretty good day. Luke Parker had 16 of those 20 possessions in the first quarter, much quieter in the second. Kennedy is always busy, he's had 19. As we check on some of the highlights now from that game, Jared McVeigh getting Sydney away early on.
It up, goes for home and kicks it. By Tippett with body strength.
Papley, an opportunity, has a look at the umpire, gets a nod in the affirmative, out deliberately, plays on, and Tommy Papley swings it around and makes no mistake. I mentioned that Nicky Del Santo, forever the opportunist, got a couple. Here's one off the left foot, just pulling it back, keeping them in touch in the first quarter. Now, this is, have a close look at this. Buddy grabbing the left hip and went down for treatment. Did come back, but just how much he's aggravated that, we're obviously not going to know. Drew Petrie thought it was Christmas when that one lobbed in his arms. Cuts the margin back to 4 points. Then finally, Parker working hard, wobbles it forward to Gary Rowan, who finished it off for Sydney to make it a 12-point ball game at the long break. And the other game being played at the MCG, that's between Richmond and St Kilda, snuck away early, and they've held that lead 4-5-29. Errant kicking for goal. Really, they've had a couple of really good opportunities they didn't take advantage of. Richmond a 2-2. McCartan's got a couple. Memory's got a couple as well. We'll have a look now at some of those highlights. Jackie Stephen having another wonderful day with 14 disposals. Todd Elton gets his first goal in just his third game.
Now he has.
And the Tigers early leaders by 6 points. But at the other end of the ground was the big man, Paddy McCartan. Going to be a really exciting player. His problem is he's prone to concussion and injury at the moment, and that's not good news. Now, here he gets a dubious free kick, but this is where he's hurt his shoulder. Takes the kick, but then leaves the ground, and you can see him holding that right wing. Bad news for him. In the meantime, Tim Membry goes for home. Saints lead by 15 points. Rioli intercepts a poor Blake Acres kick. He kicks the goal, and at that stage, he was able to get the margin back to 9 points. So a couple of tight games unfolding in round 22 after the West Coast Eagles looked after Hawthorn to the tune of 25 points last night at Domain Stadium. We're going to go to the break now. And as we do, we'll welcome in Andrew Ireland, who's going to be the special guest on Open Mic this week. Andrew Ireland is currently the Sydney CEO. He was the CEO of the Brisbane Lions, so he's certainly got plenty to chat about.
A reporter rang you, Andy, in grand final week when Buddy's preparing for a grand final about your interest in him and had the substance.
Well,
correct. Is that right?
I had an inkling that he might have had that view.
Yeah.
And fortunately, he didn't ring me back.
To his eternal chagrin, yeah?
Well, it's interesting because I find it really difficult even to sort of, I guess, lie about things. But I suspect if he had have asked me outwardly, I would have lied.